so much because you don't know the audience, you don't know who understands English, how much. I guess it's especially difficult for the foreigner and for not native Ukrainian speaker. But if we you want to get info, right? Information, how to do better stand up here. And what I learned from the class the guy was getting is basically praise Ukraine. Whatever, Ukraine, the best hospital ever. But no, we have the best hospitals. If something is good, you get the claps. So I guess what I'm gonna do here is my first time stand up, so I'm kind of anxious, but not so much. Ukraine the best! Ukraine the best! Anyhow, we talked a little bit, and I wanted to anchor in his story, so it's making some notes. You cannot hear me. Can somebody hear me?
You can.
Yeah.
Okay, do I need this?
Hold the Johnny.
The Johnny, I'm really bad with the Johnny.
Oh, you get there. You
But
go.
it has this stand-up mic kind of aura about it, so I'll try to do it sometimes. But if somebody cannot hear me or it's just not funny, tell me. Anyhow, so I'll try to do a couple of stories and what you have previously mentioned. So some Toronto stories and some hospital stories. I don't know. I've traveled a bit. I've traveled for a couple of years, basically non-stop in South America, and it's before it was a couple of years. Now the situation is that it's been, and you want to go back to it, remember something, and here I was oh, that was funny. I'm gonna do it. So anyhow. Without further ado, my jokes and my stuff. So okay, I have a friend. I went to a Ukrainian university as well. It's Kyiv Academy, and I had a classmate. And he was really, really, really cool. He was the president of the. In here you have a class, and the guy. President of the class, if it makes sense. He's representative, we worked with him. And he moved to Canada a couple of years ago, 7 years ago. And, my theory is that whatever comes from the West, eventually gets dripped down to Kyiv, to Ukraine. McDonald's, a couple centuries later, basically, we have it. And people were yeah, it's very good. So anyhow, I was getting insights from him. Because he moved in, he was having a rough time, and I was how's dating there? And what's going on? Give me insights, dude. And he's okay, so it's an Instagram story, Instagram in Toronto. so he basically, I think he's cute. No, what's for man is handsome. Handsome. Sexy. He's handsome. I think, and so he goes. He told me a story where he would go to a club and he would meet a woman, a girl, a female being from 20 to 30 in Toronto in the club, and they would end up staying together. And it's you always want to learn about the cultural differences and what's going on. And he says, so this one, she was 21 or 22 or 23. Everything's all right. In the morning, she's already leaving. So they still have no contact of each other. They have no mobile phone numbers, and it's what's how is it gonna happen? So he told me. She's leaving and she's are you on social media? And he's no. and he goes and her face just goes oh my god, I just spent the night with a stalker. Just the bottom. So I actually registered Instagram after that because
it was you.
I didn't want to do it. All right. So I think and I think it's coming to that. It's a dystopian future where the Instagram thing is gonna be here. Okay, so I have an India story. We traveled with my girlfriend to India before, like 9 years ago, and she goes. Everybody tells us to go to the metro, to the underground, to the subway. It's so good. India is dark, like, you know, if you think it's bad here, the metro or the services, like, go to India, go to third world. Not you. I'm talking to myself all the time.
Ukraine did
We are doing very good in Ukraine. In Ukraine, the best. Okay. So we go to the subway, and in the subway they literally frisk you, they check you, and they have separate cards for female and males. Like not.
They just have one card reserved for females.
For females.
Yeah.
So you're not forced as a female to go to the male
Nice
card. But here's the context. She went. I'm like, okay, you go to the female card. She's like, no, I'm an independent woman, and I'm going with you to the male compartment. So we get in, and of course we're smashed like everywhere else in the big city. And she goes like in the first 2 seconds, she's like, is it your hand on my ass? And I'm like, I don't even have time to answer. No, it's not, because there's 3 of them now. And everybody's like, so you cannot tell who is the guy. Okay, so it was one of my favorite stories. Thank you. Okay, another one about the metro, the subway. I like this stuff, I guess. So it was in France. It was 10 years ago, and you know, I had out like first time in, not the first time, but like I arrived by train, and there's a French lady, like very old French lady, and I come to her and I say like, excuse me, with my very like English for some reason, thing like, excuse me, where's underground? And she's like, under what? And like, where's subway? And she's like, subway is fish. And I'm like, where's metro? And she's like, you meant metro? And I have this spit all over my face. And it's like, okay. Okay. Ukraine the best. Thank you. There's another one. Okay, so Russia and thing and like you know, we went to London with that ex-girlfriend of mine 10 years ago, and we missed our flight back. So she had a job I didn't. I was a student, and basically next day tickets are 400 euros, and in a week 50 Wizz Air. I decided to stay for a week. It was very little money left. So I go to the museums. Museums are mostly free in London. I go to the parks, eat sandwiches. So one of those days, I go to the Hyde Park, you know, whatever, park, right? I sit, and in the next minute or so, 2 guys come over and sit next to me. And they start speaking in Russian, like straight away, like, okay, does she have your trust? I presume. I'm like, okay, like, and the other guy, yeah, she totally trusts me. So they're 2 con artists speaking Russian, I guess, presumably think that, you know, nobody understands them. And they're talking about actually robbing a lady.
Ooh.
There's nothing that I, like, you know, there's no information that I can hear, like, eating a sandwich to be, like, incriminating for them that I go to the police. Okay, those 2 people, you know, this lady and stuff. So I joined them and we robbed the lady.
Yay!
What was your cost? How much did you get?
This.
Okay.
Okay, so I have that. Okay, somebody told me once, speak softer. I cannot understand you anyway. You can see. Ukraine the best. Okay, so another, I'll try this one. I met this guy and he was from Asia, Indian. He was of Indian descent and he moved to Toronto for a couple of years to get his real story. He moved to Toronto basically to get the benefits to the citizenship and to decide if he likes it or not. So we were talking, it was New Year's, and he told me this story. He was like, okay, I got the citizenship now, and I have moved back. Like I'm moving back to India. For the salary and money I get at home, I have a couple of servants basically for me, and everything's good. But there in Toronto, he told me a story that he was trying to date a Western woman. Has anybody dated a Western woman, like from the West?
Yeah, I have.
No.
Hey! Is anybody scared of Western woman, like from the other side of the globe? Come on, guys. No.
My wife is Ukrainian.
Is what?
My wife is Ukrainian.
No, from the Western Hemisphere.
We prefer Ukrainian.
That's Westminster. Okay, right. So I think it's pretty funny. So it was 2017, and the Game of Thrones was in full swing. Does anybody like to watch Game of Thrones? I like that show a lot. Anyhow, the guy told me. So he was pretty short, and he was on the Tinder and all the social media buzz for dating applications. And he was having like a miserable time. Now nobody like dated him, nobody wanted to date him. Somehow like they would meet and he told me like what some of them were like just and leave. So he was like, oh dude, that's he's like, it's alright, right? So eventually he says, I find this lady and we really kick it off. Like it's really nice. The romance is on. A couple of months. They're at his apartment. And she's like, okay. He's like, do you want a cocktail? Like, do you want a drink? She's like, yeah, I want a drink. He's like, Manhattan? She's like, yeah, as always, like me. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go do Manhattan. He does Manhattan thing, comes back, and she sits like this, like, and he's like, what's up? And he's like, I cannot believe you were so deceiving. And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, you said you like and you're interested and you you really enjoy Game of Thrones, but you don't have even HBO Max. I'm gonna leave you. And she literally left. She didn't drink anything and left.
Oh.
And so he's like, I'm going back to India, no shit like that. Okay, a little bit of about the hospitals. I was in Guatemala and with a Ukrainian lady, and we got mugged. Mugged meaning like we were on anybody who would go to Central America knows it's very, very, very dangerous. Like top people like, oh, Ukraine is dangerous. I'm like, no, like homicide rate if you go. Syria is not dangerous compared to some of the Central American countries. Like homicide rate, like people killing each other is higher in like El Salvador. They compete with each other. They actually had a war started in the 80s over the football match. Check it out. It's we like people hit each other faces like hooligans and stuff, but there people kill each other. Anyhow, we got mugged in Guatemala story and. What happened was, we were on a really nice, like, Andreev's descent, like, overlooking the city kind of thing. Very pretty views. And those three guys come over. I mean, it's terrible.
Oh my.
Those three guys come over and they punch me in the face. They start choking her, they move. I was able to get freed. And we, like, walk. It's very high elevation, so it's 2,500 meters, so it's already like it's very difficult to breathe, and it's a very popular spot to come over and like with a car and get beers and overlook. It's a volcano and it's an ancient city. The oldest university in Central America is there in Antigua, Guatemala. So, like my lady like helped me carry and like full of blood. and it's like one of those things in the movies where like just like a car comes over and there's like two people and they look at us. I'm like full of blood. They just leave. Otherwise, it's a very popular spot. And they're like students coming over, just like music, loud music. And I come to them and like put my hand on the window. Like, help us, like, get us to the hospital. Like, I'm really, like, I just bid the guy to let me go to, you know, to even if I can survive the thing. And they drive us, and it's 2 kilometers away. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna be good. And my head is like fucking like bleeds out. Sorry, I don't know. Can we say fuck here?
A lot. You can say 3 times.
Ukraine the best.
Fuck.
So we go to this hospital, and it's a free hospital like in Ukraine or Canada or some other socially countries. And they take us to ER, emergency room. And before that, like 2 years ago, like I was an interpreter in a hospital in the US. Some of the best hospitals in the world, Walter Reed. And this time, I come in and I'm bleeding, and I'm in the ER. I'm like, are you going to help me? And she's like, hey, they're lying. And I'm like, I'm bleeding. And she's like, yeah, everybody's bleeding here. And there's a guy, and I see he had like, he has no, like, his organ was separated. And she's like, he's in the line, you can be in the line too. That's when I got scared. Okay, so, you know, it's so relative how good or bad a hospital is. It's not Canada, it's Ukraine. We get what you have for it.
Okay.
All right. And I'm gonna do one of the Yo Mama jokes as the last one. You know what's the Yo Mama joke? So in Mexico, one of the kids told me this story. So there's choritos. You know, any country has the chips with like just chemicals in it, just like whatever, red color, green color, dirt color. So that one is Dorito. And he says, the joke goes like this. Yo Mama is so poor, she uses Doritos as a lipstick. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Anton. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, guys.
Great job.
Thank you.